Hi everyone, nice to see you today. I'm just fixing up my webcam to start, so give me a short moment. Okay, hi. Um, I hope everyone's had a great break. Welcome to Monday of week one. I'm sure some of you are pretty thrilled to be back at university. Um, I think just a quick note to start is my headphones broke, so I bought a very cheap microphone off of Kogan that you're seeing here, and yeah, if there's any strange sound things, just give me a buzz. But anyway, let's get into it. So welcome to COMP6771. Most of you should be aware of what this course is generally since you're enrolled in it, right? You're here to learn C++. Today we're going to pretty much go through two key things, which is a bit of a course overview and then also a little bit of environment setup. So not a ton of like language features today, but a lot of like setup. And then we'll dig into language features as much as we can. But obviously all of you have been to the Web CMS3 page. That's how you found the lecture link here. Generally I'll put the lecture link up like 5 or so minutes. I kind of have to start the stream to put the lecture link here, so that's kind of why it's there. But let's go through it. So on the lectures page we have 3 week 1 lectures, and the first one here we have is an introduction to C++. Course outline, course overview if you will. If you haven't already established, my name's Hayden. I think you probably know that because you've been getting emails from me, but let's start to cover the basics. So this course is essentially run by me and lectured by me. It's small enough that I do most of the admin in the course, so pretty much all of your queries will go to me. We may get some tutors on the forum though to help out, depending on how much you need us. We might have some guest lecturers. There's 2 previous C++ lecturers and tutors here, and then Optiva sometimes likes to do a guest lecture. They basically email me like in week 8, and if they don't email me, then maybe we'll see what happens. But sometimes Optiva does a little talk because Optiva is obviously one of the bigger C++ focused grad opportunities for CSE students. And then we have a bunch of tutors. The top 3 there are previous tutors. Nathaniel has been tutoring. Nathaniel and Simon have been tutoring for quite a while. So it's a great group of tutors, which is really good. And there's less tutors in this course. This course has 450 students, and we've got 6 tutors. The good news is that probably means you'll have a higher quality of teaching, because like when tutors teach more, they generally do better at their job. The downside is assignment marking might be a touch slower, but we'll see how we go in this course. Okay, what are the course objectives? These are super boring, but we generally want you to be comfortable writing C++20, using libraries with C++20, giving you some testing frameworks and software to use and work with, and also learn a little bit more about object-oriented programming in the context of C++, as well as generic programming. Basically, like if you've done Java, that's like Java templates and stuff. So that's kind of like the key point of what we're teaching in the course. But this begs the question, what even is C++? Well, I'm sure many of you know it's a programming language. If you don't know that, then I commend you for enrolling in a course randomly. But the key things about C++ are that it's a lightweight abstraction programming language. So essentially what that means is, like a lot of higher level languages you've used, like maybe Java, for instance, it's like that in a sense, but it's a lot more lightweight. So it is an abstract programming language that does hide away some of the machine details. It can use elements of garbage collection like you're used to with Java, but you haven't seen in C, etc. So it's a little more high level than C. Now I'm going to talk about C a lot just because it's expected that you know C entering this course, right? Because you might have come from like 1511 or an equivalent postgrad course. So we will base a lot of things off that. But in a lot of ways, programming with C++ won't feel always like C. If you've done Python and Java and C, it'll feel like a mix of all of those things in kind of strange ways. But C will, at the start, be the language you'll most likely want to relate it to. The thing about C++ is it's a much more complex language than C. So C's a really simple programming language. It's one of the easiest languages you can think of, right? You could teach it to someone in a day. C++ is a lot more complex, right? There's libraries, there's a lot more to the language. It has the object-oriented ability of it. You can overload operators. Like, these are all things we're going to go through. But C++ code itself is often more simple than C because of these abstractions, right? It's the same way that you'd say Java is simpler than C, for instance. And while it has object-oriented capabilities like Java, it's not required, right? So if you programmed in Java, you know that you kind of have to start your Java program with a class. But C++, you can write things without a class. You do still need like a main function, essentially, but besides that, you really don't need to be object-oriented if you don't want to. But we'll get into that. So C++ design pillars. So what are the key things to focus? What are the key things that the language focuses on? Well, probably the two biggest things are that C++ wants to leave no room for a language between itself and assembly. Now, if that doesn't make sense to you, it's kind of like, you know how you might be programming in something like Java or Python, right? And then you say, oh, we need something lower level. We need something faster, for instance. Well, in those cases, you might jump to a programming language like C because of how few abstractions it has, which makes it very fast, right? Because you have a lot more direct control over things. The kind of design principle of C++ is such that it wants to be a language that's fast enough, like C, such that the only time you want to go lower is when you want to get into assembly, right? Like all that MIPS stuff, if you've done 1521. So a focus is definitely on performance. And similarly, it's a big part of the C++ design culture that abstractions should have as little cost as possible. And what I mean by that, or well, what we mean by that, is that you take a language like C again, which might have some arrays in it, right? If you've ever malloced an array in C, and then you might have a language like Java, where you have like array lists, or Python, where you have lists, but those things are heavier, right? There's all this stuff going on in the background, bounds checks and other things. So these abstractions in those other languages have costs associated with them, and C++ wants to try and provide you with the speed without necessarily the same extent of cost that you might experience in other programming languages. Now, I've been doing a lot of comparisons to C, but it's important to point out that C++ is not C. C++ is backwards compatible with C, and what that means is that every C program you've written, you can compile with a C++ compiler, right? So in a literal sense, you can write C and then write C++ on top of it. You can include stdio.h and all these other things. And now that kind of tempts people to think it's just like C++, right? Like C with more. But fundamentally, it's important in this course, and we're going to be giving you this in the marking criteria, is to think that this is a different language and you're going to have to approach things differently. So in this course, we will expect that if you should expect that if you write programs that are basically C code or C-esque code, that you will lose marks for it, because the older C++ gets, the kind of further away it gets from C. And like one thing, for example, that we're going to talk about in the course is that good C++, you pretty much don't interact with pointers at all, right? So in C++, you can use pointers just like C, but it's considered bad practice, right? Because you all have used pointers before, you'll make mistakes and you'll break your own code. So we might touch on things like malloc and free and C-style arrays and strings as char stars, but fundamentally, we will be using better abstractions of that. And in that sense, your C++ code won't look like your C code. Now, just as a reminder too, I am looking at the YouTube chat. So anyone writes questions, I usually glance at it every like 5 to 30 seconds. So if you have questions, you can just ask. And I already mentioned about pointers. Okay, so what's C++ used for? Now, this may be a terrible example, but the way I think about C++ is it reminds me a lot of carbon fiber, which I know sounds like a bit of a weird thing, but I've done a lot of work with like carbon fiber in during my time as a student, and we all kind of like know carbon fiber. It's that like shiny looking thing that people like talk about, and maybe they make bicycles out of and stuff, like carbon fiber bicycle. And the thing about carbon fiber is it's really light and it's really strong, but that doesn't mean that it's the best thing all the time. So there's some people out there who kind of think C++ is like the greatest language on the planet and they use it for everything. But that's not necessarily the right approach, because what's unique about C++ is that it is both fast and it is powerful. And when I say powerful, I mean it's like easy to write a lot of code in, right? And when you have something like C, which is kind of not very powerful, it's hard to write big things in C, but it's super quick. And then on the other end, you have something like, say, Python, which is quite slow, but you can do tons of stuff with it really easily. There's kind of a gap in the middle for things that require both. And the reason I mentioned carbon fiber, for instance, is that, if you're trying to build something strong, like a chair or something, or a seat bench, you can just build it out of steel, or something that like is really cheap that can be heavy, but it's quite strong, right? And you have languages like Python, which you can do a lot with, but they're slow. But sometimes it doesn't matter if they're slow. Like if you're writing a program that's going to take 2 seconds to run in the worst case, like who cares? You don't need to write it in something complex like C++. You can write it in something simple like Python. And then on the flip side, sometimes you need things to run really, really fast, but you don't really need it to do much. And that's what C is great for. So we like C++ because it's a good balance. It has this capability mixed with this performance. And therefore, if you look at a lot of the applications that it tends to be used for, it's often on a lot of low-level complex stuff, right? Like, for instance, most web browsers are built with C++, right? A lot of complex systems that interact directly with hardware are sometimes built on C++ if they're trying to maintain more complex libraries than what you can do with C. In general, what I would say is a good rule is that if you look at a lot of modern software that's built, you basically have a massive camp of software that's built on the web, right? Like this and like everything else, like Slack, Discord, Microsoft Teams. These are all built as web apps, and what you'll notice, you notice this, right? They're a little bit slow. They're a little bit chuggy. If you've ever used these tools, they just don't feel as zippy as something like, Google Chrome or Photoshop. Like if you've ever used Google Presentations or Google Sheets as opposed to using Excel or something, there is a performance difference, and a lot of that is because, people will write a lot of native applications in C++, for instance. A lot of operating systems or other pieces of code might be written in C++. So it's really essentially like, do you need performance? And is this a non-trivial piece of software? Particularly something that's not interacting directly with hardware, because you'll probably still lean towards C for stuff that interacts directly with hardware. I think the only thing I missed here is games. A lot of games are written in C++ purely because games are some of the most performant demanding things out there, right? Like they want to be fast. You need games to be fast because they just demand a lot from the computer. There are 2 books that you can use to learn things in this course. I would say generally that you don't need textbooks at all to get your head around this course. But if you're one of those people who just really loves to learn more, then that's probably the best place to look. There's 2 links here, but the main place you're going to go to a lot during this course is cppreference.com. It's basically a website that is kind of like the docs of the entire language. It shows you kind of all the functions, all the types, that's like core to C++. An extremely helpful doc. We're going to be talking about it lots in the course, so I'm not going to go through it now. And then in terms of getting help, well, if you have questions to ask, the first place you should always go is the forum. I have to sign in on this browser. I use a different browser for teaching. No! That's alright. My password's long enough that I don't care if you know the first 5 letters. Thankfully, it's not like an 8-letter long password. Oh, okay, I remember now. You know how UNSW makes you change your password every goddamn 6 months, and then anyway. So yeah, if you have questions, you pretty much just post them on the forum. It's pretty sweet. That's where I kind of want you to post everything if you can. The reason for that is because I find it easier to collate them. I'm probably going to get back to you quicker. If you can't get answers from the forum, you can try and email your tutor. Generally speaking, your tutor might not be able to get back to you super quick because they only have so many hours they're paid to help outside of the course. these are all of your tutors here. You can find their contact details down the bottom. Generally speaking, though, if you ask a question that could be posted on the forum, even if it's private, they're still going to send you to the forum. So it's good practice to post on the forum. And then the next two are just these two email addresses. I would strongly encourage you to email CS6771 at CSE instead of me, even though they both go to me, because here's the thing. A lot of students forget that like I teach other courses, so sometimes they'll just email me literally and be like help, and they'll be like, I can't log into WebCMS3, and I'm like, who are you? Where are you from? If you at least email CS6771, I can immediately categorize what your problems are. So please email that instead of me directly. Thank you. Okay, schedule and structure. There's a course outline. Please read it if you haven't read it. I try and make my course outlines nice and short and contain all the key information about assessments and timelines. I think the only thing I want to clarify is that this here I don't think is in pairs. I think this is individual. I have to triple check, but it's is like the third assessment weeks away. So yes, please. This is probably individual, but besides that, you can read the course outline. It's a very simple course. Starlight says in the chat, should ELS stuff be sent to me or the course email? The course email. It all goes to me. It's just like, it's easier for me to categorize it. So yeah, to the course email. Standard course, lectures, tute, lots of work outside the class. There are 3 assessments. This course is very assessment heavy, 70% assessments, 30% exam. ELS doesn't concern you if you don't know what it is. Yeah. With this course, the exam's been dropped. It used to be 50%, now it's 30%, which is much smaller. I'm trying to move that way because of COVID, and like online exams are kind of crappy. So, yeah, that's about it. The assessment weightings have definitely gone up. If assignment 3 is in pairs, would we have the option to do it solo? Yes, but I'm pretty sure it'll be individual. Like I'm 80% sure, but I'll figure that out in the next few weeks. Is this course DP? I don't know what DP is. Oh, double pass. No, it's not. I don't think I explained this to everyone. I don't think double passes make sense if you do an online exam. Like if someone does a double pass online exam, like just tell them I think it doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, assessment. So last points on assessment here are that we may scale the final exam. There is no hurdle, as in there is no double pass on the final exam. And the assignments, you will be required not just to write C++, you'll also be required to do some testing, which is written in C++. And then we will also get you to be doing the assignments in Git, which I know about 2/3 of you are definitely familiar with, and probably many more. I'm not sure what you mean by, is this course still ADK? I don't know. You'll have to give me the acronym on that one. And please don't plagiarize. C++ has very sophisticated software to detect plagiarism. I just gave 12 students a 0 for their final exam in another course. So I will find you, and don't do it. Yeah. Advanced disciplinary knowledge. I'm not sure what that means, but if you want to elaborate, I can help out. Okay, so last couple of things. This course is taught on GitLab. The actual links in WebCMS3 will take you to GitLab. Like if you go to tutorials and stuff and you click on this link, it will take you to GitLab. Anyone who's an undergrad should be familiar with this. Anyone who's a postgrad might be familiar with it. So generally speaking, it's like if you're a postgrad, what I'd recommend is if you go to Lab 0 here, we've actually got a lab that's taken from an undergrad course, which I can't really load because I'm not a student in the course, but I'll pull it up here for you now. So we've actually got this lab here which like gives you the basics of Git. It's not a course on Git, it's just a tool we would like you to use to manage your assignments. So if you're not familiar with Git, you can just go here and learn about it. If you're familiar with Git, you can totally skip this because it's just taken from an undergraduate course. Yeah. that's pretty much it. We'll talk a little bit about getting the environment set up lecture. Also feedback. There is a, oh, I haven't got it in the sidebar. That's really sad. There is going to be, oh, this is terrible. I've actually got this like page, which is for feedback. And it's basically a Google form. And it's anonymous, but you can optionally put your name in there. I'm just like literally adding it right now. Just because otherwise I forget, and it takes all of 3 seconds. Save. So there's a link in the sidebar here called feedback, which basically lets you like pick a lecture and then, oh, that's a different thing. Okay, I'll just fix this later. Anyway, there's some anonymous feedback that's not that. That there'll be a link there for where you can basically share your feedback throughout the course. Now, I put that there so that everyone has a chance to give feedback, even if you want it to be anonymous. I would encourage you though to always share feedback with me, telling me who you are, because I don't get mad at things. And sometimes I want to talk to you about it, because like what happens is sometimes students give me feedback and they're like, oh, I found the lectures a bit boring, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what you want me to do with that. Like I have a follow-up question, and if you give me like half the time people give feedback that's anonymous, I have to throw it in the bin because there's nothing actionable from it, right? So I like when you can share your name, which is good. Some other questions. When will we have access to the first assignment? That's a great question. I was going to touch on that at the end. The first assignment is going to be released on Wednesday. It's a smaller assignment than the other two. It is a bit like short time framed, but the main purpose is so that you get a chance to like do something, get into the course quickly, and also hopefully, like we want to have it done as early as we can so we can help you understand how you're finding this course, right? Because like it's important that you get a sense of how this course is going to be as soon as possible. Is Lab Zero knowledge on Git enough for this course? Yes, absolutely. It's probably even a bit more than you need. Just to make sure there's no weekly labs, yeah, it's just 3 assignments and an exam. That's it. And assignment 3 is individual. So for the assignments, assignment 1, I'll just make this really clear, will be released on Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. Right? So that's when we're releasing it. Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. And then I'll be talking about it briefly in the lecture on Thursday. So this will be released Wednesday at 8 p.m. I'm having people asking me, are we getting marked on Git usage like 1531? No, for the undergrads, there's no Git usage marks in this course. It's purely the tool we're using. It's like, you might use gedit or VS Code to write stuff because we've asked you to, but like we're not marking you on it. It's just how we want to structure the course. So yeah, Wednesday 8 p.m. you'll see the assignment come out. That means that when you click on this link, it'll actually take you to it. Because right now it's a bit dud. I just need to check a couple things. And yeah, then we'll chat through it on Thursday. Generally speaking, assignment 1 touches on content from week 1 and 2. Yep. Some other questions I have in the chat here are, only assignment 3 will be grouped. I don't know how many times I have to say this. So assignment 3 will probably be individual, and if it's not, I'll let you all know, right? Oh, there's no lecture on Thursday? Am I thinking Wednesday? Oh, Tuesday. Oh, okay. Sorry. I got my times wrong. So what I'll do is, in that case, sorry, I was thinking of another course. I will have the assignment 1 released tomorrow night, and I'll send out a notice about it, right? So we'll release it tomorrow night at 6 p.m. If the lecture's on Tuesday, my bad, then I'll get it released tomorrow night. So tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Bob, the answer to your question is yes. I don't really want to dwell on that topic. Is knowledge of Java a prereq for this course? Yes, because 2511 is. And people have asked, lecture recordings. Lecture recordings are just available on the lectures page. They'll be here. So against each lecture, they'll be recorded. Yeah. Sorry about the lecture time mess up. Point is, we'll have assignment 1 released for you tomorrow night. That's the main point. Okay? And then just last point in this introduction is that I would, just want to remind everyone that it's important that we operate in as an inclusive environment as we can. during this course. And generally what that means is that, if we find out that you're disrespecting students or breaching codes of conduct, we won't take it lightly. This computer science industry is kind of a bit of a foul place compared to some other industries around the world. So hopefully you can all join me in trying to make our lives and each other's as nice and friendly and loving a place as possible. So that's just me reminding you, so that if you do something stupid, I can tell you I told you not to. Pink says, shall we use VLab for this course? You can do stuff at home, and that's actually what we're about to talk about next. And that pretty much sums up the introduction to the course. So the only key takeaways here, like the only real key things besides what I've said, is that we'll be releasing assignment 1 tomorrow, and we'll have a brief chat about it at the end of tomorrow's lecture. Yeah, that's about it.